All right, hello, my awesome Math 8 students. This is Monday. We are on Edpuzzle number 12 / homework number 11. I think it's day 26 of quarter 4. So this week we're just going to review everything we've gone over the last 3 weeks. So make sure you title your paper volume review, first and last name, and everything like we used to. And then we're going to go over finding volume of a cylinder, volume of a cone, volume of a sphere. Make sure you write down the steps and the formula for each one, just like you see on this template. And then also we're going to go over these 6 examples. So this is what your paper should look like when you turn it in to me for homework. All right, this is the worksheet we're going to be working on as a whole. I will attach this as a PDF file to the Edpuzzle, and I will also attach the template to the Edpuzzle as a PDF, so you can always reference these. If you have the capability, you can print them out, but the formulas are on this worksheet as well as the steps, so if you ever need to reference those things again, you can. All right, here's the formula for volume of a cylinder. You will need to be writing this down on your notes. Remember, it is volume equals pi r squared times h, or I think this way is easier to use when you're plugging it into the calculator. Volume equals pi times r times h. So make sure you write this down. All right, here's the formula for volume of a cone. It is volume equals 1/3 pi r squared times h, or you can use this version. I think it's easier for your calculator. You should be writing this down, which is volume equals 0.3 times pi times r times h. So please write this down. All right, and the last formula we're going to be using for this review is volume of a sphere, which is volume equals 4/3 times pi times r cubed, or we can rewrite it for the calculator saying volume equals 1.3 times pi times r times r times r. So make sure you write this down. Remember, we don't need height this time because the height is already inside the formula, so don't worry about that. All right, so we're going to start going over the examples one by one. Now remember, this is volume review, so we are going to see cylinders, cones, spheres, and the steps are all the same for each figure. But the most important thing is we need to make sure that we're using the right formula. So we need to identify what kind of figure it is and then make sure we use the right formula. And then after that, it's just identifying the correct values and plugging them into the formula. So it's pretty straightforward. So after watching this video and following the steps in the process, you should be able to understand it clearly. Okay, so let's start with step 1. What's step 1? Well, remember, it's write the formula. Okay, so we did step 1, which was write the formula, and now we need to do step 2, which is identify the radius and the height. So our radius is 4 centimeters, and our height is 15 centimeters. Step 2 is done. Let's move on to step 3, which is substitute the values into the formula. So as you can see, I took the formula and took away the letters, and now I just left blank spaces. So where the r's were, I'm going to put 4 centimeters instead because that was the value of our radius. And then where the h was, I'm going to put 15 centimeters because that was the value of our height. So step 3 is done. And now we need to apply step 4, which is multiply all the way through. So we have 4 centimeters times 4 centimeters times 15 centimeters. That will give me a total of 240 centimeters cubed, because remember we multiplied centimeters 3 times, so it's going to be cubed. And don't forget we have the pi. So the last step is what's pi times 240 centimeters cubed. That will give me a total volume of 753.6 centimeters cubed. So our total volume is this measurement right here. All right, go ahead and do number 2 on your own. Make sure you follow the same steps. Make sure you identify what type of figure it is. And most importantly, make sure you're using the correct formula out of the 3. All right, here's example number 3. So let's just go ahead and get started with step 1. So step 1 is write the formula. All right, well, I see that I'm dealing with a cone, so I'm going to go look at my notes and make sure I use the cone formula. Okay, so we remember that the cone formula is volume equals 0.3 times pi times r times height. So step 1 is done. Now I need to do step 3, which is identify the radius and height. Sorry, step 2. So our radius is 3 inches and our height from top to bottom is 8 inches. Okay, step 2 is done. Now we're moving on to step 3, which is substitute the values into the formula. So as we did on example 1, I just rewrote the formula, but I took out the letters. So instead of r, I'm going to put the value of the radius, which is 3 inches. I'm going to do that twice because we had 2 r's, and then the value of the height was 8 inches. So step 3 is done. Now step 4 is to multiply all the way straight through. So it's 3 inches times 3 inches times 8 inches. That's going to give me a total of 72 inches cubed. Then I bring the rest of the formula down, which is 0.3 times pi times 72 inches cubed, which will give us a total volume of 67.824 inches cubed. Now remember, it's going to get smaller because this is 1/3 of the volume. So if we're chopping it into thirds, it's actually going to get smaller. And make sure you label it inches cubed. All right, here we go. Here's number 4. It's almost exactly the same as number 3, but just different numbers. Make sure that you're using these 5 steps and that you're using the correct formula out of the 3 that we have been using. All right, so here's example 5. So step 1, we need to write the formula. So first I need to look at my shape and see what type of 3D shape I'm dealing with. And as I can tell, this is a sphere. So I need to make sure that I'm using the formula of a sphere. So the formula for volume of a sphere is 1.3 times pi times r times r times r. So step 1 is done. And then step 2, we need to actually just identify the radius. So we don't need to identify the height. And that's pretty straightforward. Remember, the radius is from the edge to the center. So it's going to be 3 feet is our radius. And now we need to apply step 3, which is substitute the values into the formula. So I rewrote the formula, just took out the r's. So instead of an r, I'm going to put 3 feet 3 times. Okay, so step 3 is done. Everything is substituted. Now I need to apply step 4, which is multiply all the way straight through. So 3 feet times 3 feet times 3 feet gives me a total of 27 feet cubed, remember, because we multiplied feet 3 times. Now I need to bring down the rest of the formula, which is the 1.3 and the pi. If I multiply all that together, throw that into your calculator, and it will give me a total of 110.214 feet cubed. So this is the total volume of the sphere. Make sure you label it. If you don't, you will lose points. All right, so now on your own, I want you guys to complete problems 2, 4, and 6. Make sure you use problems 1, 3, and 5 as an example and a reference. You want to follow those same steps and the same process, but we're just using different numbers. Remember, these are the 5 steps you're going to be using. The most important part is to make sure that you're using the right formula. So you need to use your notes. If you're not writing down the formulas and the steps and you don't have them for notes, then you are going to struggle. All right, I hope this helped. This is just review, so to make sure to solidify everything from the last 3 weeks. If you have any questions, please let me know, Ms. Turner.